Hello, it's Scott with Zenvi AI, and welcome to the Systems Are Sexy podcast. Today, I am joined by Neil O'Connor with Rome Commercial Realty. Neil has a very unique background: military, hospitality, the Ritz-Carlton, funeral service, and now helping healthcare professionals like dentists and veterinarians open up and expand their practices. At Rome, he and his team specialize in tenant-only representation, making sure doctors get the right space, the right deal, and the right foundation to grow. So, Neil, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good, Scott. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, let's maybe start there with your background. I know there's a lot there, so hopefully we can high level review kind of what your background has been from military to hospitality to funeral service and kind of how that shapes to where you are now with your business.
Yeah, and it even goes further than that. I started off working in restaurants, dishwashing, all the way up to bussing tables, waiting tables, bartending, managing. I love hospitality. I love people. I love serving. So that led me into working at the Ritz Carlton at a very young age. That really kind of branded an impression on me about what an experience is like because people will pay good money to experience something. And none of us want to pay anything if we experience a bad, transaction, so to speak. So, yeah, I actually was in funeral service for 30 years. Prior to that, I joined the Navy. Loved that experience. It gave me a great foundation of, once again, working with people and just being around people all over the country. And then I jumped into our family's business, which I was a fourth generation funeral director. That started in 1898. I had no idea I was going to be in funeral service, but I'm a curious person by nature. So I figured, why not? Actually, a gentleman at the Ritz Carlton who was staying there a week picked my brain every day. He came down and talked to me and, what do you want to do with your life? I had no idea. He goes, what does your family do? Started asking question after question. And he really branded a thought in my head and said, well, look at life in a snippet of 20 years. In 20 years, you want to look back and you don't want to have a lot of, well, we make a lot of mistakes, but a lot of regrets. You don't try funeral service. You may be the only one in your family who had the opportunity to do it. It may be gone and sold. Why don't you just give it a shot, see if you like it? And sure enough, I tried it. I loved it. Got to meet so many people, not only locally, nationally, and internationally, because the experience just kept growing. And I loved helping people. Like I said, I was able to take part of the military experience, Rich Carlton experience, hospitality, and weave that into funeral service. And I think the things that we have done in funeral service are very unique. People would reach out to us all the time. What are you doing? How are you growing so fast? And it's human centered care, basically what it is. Anywhere you go, you say that word. What is human centered care? It could be very self explanatory. We're all humans. We need to be centered in whatever we're doing, and we're caring for each other. So that when I got into commercial real estate for healthcare, I started seeing things the same way I saw in funeral service. There's a lot of parallel paths. In funeral service, it's generational, so it's just passed on. In healthcare, it's highly competitive, and well-trained people may not be the entrepreneurs. May not have worked in hospitality. And so when we talk about healthcare, it is an experience. And a lot of times it can be very good, or sometimes it can be transactional and you're just another number depending on where you go. So there's a lot there to unpack for sure. But I just love people. I love helping people. I love my role right now, as you mentioned, tenant only healthcare. We work with a lot of dentists, veterinarians, and overall medical, and being able to see people start their practices, satisfaction that we can bring a lot to the table and helping them through the stages of opening up a practice, which is very dynamic in itself.
How did you guys decide to focus on that niche and what makes, I mean, for people listening that maybe aren't familiar with healthcare deals, what makes it different than maybe a normal commercial real estate transaction?
Yeah. So our owner, Brian Mills, he started in dentistry years ago, 20 years ago, and worked in it and then got into commercial real estate, worked for another brokerage and branched off in California. As you know, we're in California. I'm in Southern California, and a lot of people, the biggest thing I have to share with doctors is do not go into commercial real estate alone. And that's what Brian saw. He saw people going into real estate alone and getting taken advantage of, getting bad deals handed to them, a lot of money left on the table or concessions where when you have someone representing you, we know the ins and outs of commercial real estate. We know what landlords will give, what concessions we can get from trying to bring a deal to the table, make both parties satisfied in this transaction. Healthcare was just, it's still, I would say about 85% of our clients have never heard of us until we get referred by someone else. We do a lot of education, a lot of marketing, but our best advocates are people we've served before. They'll introduce us to their friends, their families, their colleagues. But it's a great opportunity to help people because, like I said, most doctors will enter into commercial real estate unrepresented. Our silly analogy to our dentist friends will say, "Hey, if I had a aching tooth, would you let me pull it? Ha ha ha. No. So don't go into commercial real estate unrepresented." And I think one of the biggest gifts we give them is a huge amount of savings of time. You're not trying to track down a listing broker. You're not trying to tour on your own. We will narrow a target and be very specific to what their brand or vision is.
Great. So I know you'd mentioned dentists and obviously veterinarians is another topic for you as far as primary clients. Why are those such strong fits, and what trends are you seeing in that growth?
Well, dentistry is ever growing, and as well with veterinarians. Ever since COVID, with vets, people have brought in two or three pets, and that space is just growing leaps and bounds. And there's a shortage of vets. There's a need for that, and it's the opportunity is ripe for anyone who's in pet care to say, "I want to go out on my own. I want to care for my community." There's a lot of time that can be spent inside vet care with really great people. The time that they spend caring for animals, 12, 14 hours a day. So there is a shortage definitely for staff and vets. So we're always looking to help people in that area.
Before you had mentioned that you don't feel like your biggest competition isn't other brokers, maybe just about doctors not knowing that you exist. Obviously, referrals, but you had mentioned marketing. How are you getting in front of doctors right now, and what worked for building trust with them?
Yeah, there's a local organization, Southern California Vet Medical Association, so we've partnered with them. A lot of what we do is just educational because when you talk about commercial real estate, it can be very nuts and bolts. It can be boring. Really, where we try and plant seeds is you can do this. When you go get a loan from a lender, they're going to give you anywhere from $750,000 to $1 million because the vet space is so successful. That amount of money will help you with the build out cost, which is significant in Southern California, your equipment, and your first year's working capital. So we do try and educate people. This is very doable. It does take time, it does take energy, but we can help you get there because along the journey, I like to say it's 4 quarters. First quarter is finding a location, touring it, negotiating it, getting a contractor there. So we'll introduce contractors, designers, equipment companies, insurance companies, marketing companies, EPAs, attorneys to our clients if they don't have those key people in their lives to get the doors open. All reality, it'll take 12 to 18 months from the time we start searching to those doors open. So we recognize someone has probably a family and a practice to work at. In the meantime, we'll either help the project move forward, kind of play a central role, quarterback, as I like to say. Obviously, the doctor, the client is going to make all the decisions, but like I said, they probably don't have all those key people that they can trust. And we've worked with a group of people time and time again. So we know they're experts. We know they're very efficient, very effective at what they do. If we bring in someone who's not efficient or effective, the biggest adage is time or someone in that key role can kill a deal accidentally. So we've had equipment reps, we've had attorneys, we've had CPAs, we've had contractors step into things that they're not experts in. They say the wrong thing. It can spook the client like, "Oh my gosh, this is the wrong space." It's like almost every space needs to be retrofitted. It has to be built out. You need to scrape it. Rarely do you find a perfectly former vet clinic. There are a few out there, but they're still going to need a little work or touch up. So we pride ourselves in bringing in really top talented people who get that time is of the essence and they have to be on point to be able to deliver whatever skill set they have to our clients.
You mentioned Southern California. What areas do you guys cover?
So myself, Orange County, Inland Empire, I have partners in San Diego, LA, and then Northern California. So we're a very small boutique brokerage, but we actually have two agents in the Midwest. We can do deals in all 50 states.
You had mentioned referrals being a big part of your business. How do you turn someone from a happy client into an active referrer for you guys?
Great question. I think it's just kind of what we talked about, human-centered care. When we meet with someone, we'll want to sit down for an hour or two and interview them to see, hey, are we a match? Because I'm not for everyone. We know that. And you've got to have a lot of synergy because, like I said, we're going to be with the client for 12 to 18 months. So first is that foundation of trust. If they trust me and I trust them that they're going to be actionable, because I do need our clients to be actionable. I can't force them to get the loan. I can't force them to show up on time. As you go through that time, and I think that trust keeps growing and growing, you actually somewhat become relationally friends. It's more than just a transaction or business. They look at you and say, God, you put in so much time. I had no idea what you really were about. I thought you were just going to find me a lease or a property purchase. I get more people who will text me and say, Hey, I want to introduce you to my colleague, so and so. They are looking to buy something. They're looking for a lease. They're looking to open up a second door. So it's really just building the relationship. Our pipeline for every successful company just kind of is like a tree. It just splinters out and grows. We do a lot of marketing education. So anything we can do educationally to get in front of potential tenants and clients, we will do.
I know earlier you had mentioned about kind of like framing staffing issues as really leadership issues. How do you coach doctors to think differently about leadership when they're building or scaling their practices so they can keep and retain their staff?
Yeah, we talk about it. I think there's elements that we find people who are highly successful and they grow quicker than people who try and do it themselves. One of the things we will do is introduce them to a consultant, and some consultants can really do a great job of mentoring them with things that they don't know because they know medicine. They may not know accounting. They may not know coding. They may not know marketing. So we pair them up with that. And part of that is challenge them on where do you see your brand? Where do you see your vision? And the most successful people recognize the team who I work with are going to help us transform this practice. So if you treat them like gold, then they will create gold. Golden opportunities. When someone walks in, they're going to say, "Hey, if I'm at the front desk and I know you're coming at 9 o'clock, Scott, hey Scott, good morning. How are you? How are your kids? What have you been up to?" They relationally get to know you, so you feel endeared to them, and it's an experience. So we walked into stores before, and you could scream at the top of your lungs, "I need help," and no one comes out of the back, and they're sitting there going, "I've got money in my pocket. I'm going to spend something. I'm going to buy something." But then if you go to somewhere where it's boutique and it's experiential and you're like, you know what? They know my name. They know my kids' names. They care about me. They know that my dad was sick. It's very relational. It's very old school. When you travel to the Midwest or Europe, people will talk to you for 20, 30 minutes before they ask you, how may I help you? Southern California is a whole different animal where it's business, 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 business. I've grown up here, so that's what I've known. But when you go somewhere else, you kind of get a framework of like, oh, wow, you're actually wanting to know me. So I would just say you can pick up any leadership books and read about what leadership looks like. What are the most successful companies have done? But I just try and play it back. I'm like, tell me a time when you've gone to a business and you've just walked away in awe and you want to go back. Okay, now tell me a time you've gone into a business and you'll never go back. That's how you have to be as a leader. You have to create an environment where people want to go back. And let's face it, when I was a little kid, when I went to the dentist, I always had bad experiences. And it wasn't the relationship, it was just the technical part of it. But it was, long time ago, but it was, I would say, medicine as it was known then. Now, if you look at our clients, when you walk in their facilities, they're very warm, they're very inviting. It's hospitality is really the success point. If someone walks in and offers you, Scott, would you like some coffee, tea, water? Do you need some refreshments before you in to see the doctor? And like I said, it's just building relationships, I think, is the key to all our success.
Yeah, I think before you had mentioned, obviously coming from your background, the importance of the first impression. And I think you kind of explained on that, letting your team know how important it is to have a great first impression when somebody walks through that door.
Yep. Yep. The old adage, I think it's goes something, people don't care what you know. It's they're always going to want to be remembered by that experience, how you made them feel, because information is information. We're always going to get to the point of getting the exchange if I need braces or I need a checkup or I need work on my shoulder. But how was it when I walked away from it? Did I feel really good about working with whoever it was, a doctor, a nurse, or going into a hotel? I mean, did they make me feel valued?
Absolutely.
The biggest thing I always say is, Scott, forgive me, are you married, Scott?
Yes.
So if you came home and your wife said to you, Scott, you don't understand me, you don't see me, you don't hear me, you'd probably go, oops, what's going on? So I'm sure you do a great job of asking or showing that I hear you, I see you, I understand you. Relationships, we need that connection. It's that human centered care I keep going back to. Without that, we're kind of dead in the water.
Absolutely. Switching to technology, I know you guys have mentioned you've experimented with some AI tools, building brochures and whatnot. Where do you think the biggest opportunity is for your work, but also your clients' work, implementing technology tools?
Yeah, I was pondering that because I was looking at some of the things we talked about a couple weeks ago, and I've just dabbled in technology, so I'm not an expert. It has helped me create what I think are really good roadmap brochures. So when I meet with the client, I'll say, "Here is just a brochure of what this journey is going to look like, and who are the key players that we're going to introduce you to, and kind of set the expectations." Like I said, it's 12 to 18 months is typical to open up some doors. But to answer your question, my hope for technology would be that from the time the person enters the thought of, I want to open up a practice or I want to open up another location, that they can one, find us or we can find them somehow. I know there is technology where you could send out tons and tons of information or emails and try and mine for people who are in that whatever 1% sweet spot. So I know you're much more savvy. I'd love your thoughts on, now or down the road where technology can take this relationship into kind of a crossroads where you find that sweet spot. Because I always say, people say, tell me about your clients. I said, we've got it. They're in three categories. One who's going to fulfill their vision and they're going to be really good at taking orders and being actionable. The next category is someone who's really interested but needs a little push and pull. So we need to act like a Sherpa or we need to inspire them. You can do this. Let me prove to you through many different steps and relationships this can be done. And then the last third is people who probably are never going to transact or open up their own practice, which is fine. Being an associate, it's a great lifestyle too, great paycheck too, but trying to filter out the people who really want to be actionable and grow versus I don't think I'm ever going to do this. So if I had that magic wand, it'd like, can you make only real people appear in my world?
Automating the process of finding potential clients and also qualifying them so you know what track to put them on and what your follow-up should look like.
Yeah. And you know it. I mean, sometimes people contact me and 2 years later, they reach back out and say, I'm ready because something happened in my life. A lot of this, you have to be emotionally ready to go get a loan, significant amount of money, 12 to 18 months, commit to a process. And then once the doors are open, that can be an aha moment too. Am I really qualified to lead people? Like we talked, it's not, you may know medicine, people say the biggest challenge in medicine is staffing. And I get that. But the counter to that is what are we doing to retain really good people, recruit really good people, and keep them for 20 to 30 years. Because I grew up with a bunch of doctors and they've proven to me that I didn't never had a retention problem. I had people who worked for me for 40 years because he and she knew how to take care of people and they knew them and they became part of their family, even though they're employed by them. Let's face it, if we work together on a daily basis, we will be around each other more than we will be with our spouse and our kids. 8, 10 hours plus. So it's all how we interact and how we support each other.
Yeah, I mean that applies obviously to every industry. It's hard to find good people, and if you can manage people, you're going to be in a good spot because that's not an easy thing to do.
Absolutely.
So, kind of looking again to the future, where do you think the biggest opportunities in healthcare real estate are in the next, let's say, 1 to 3 years?
Yeah, I think the obvious is, everyone says it to me. I wish I would have purchased my property because of all the benefits, the tax savings, the equity growth in it, and being able to have that as a residual income. So no one I don't think has ever regretted owning a property, maybe one or two people. But so owning your own property in healthcare is very significant. I think the other ones is what we've already talked about is really beyond being a very astute clinical practitioner is being a leader and just knowing how to lead people. And I see people who will have multiple rooftops because they're entrepreneurs. And that's not for everyone because that's not an easy task. But if you have one rooftop and you want sanity, it's going back to how do we make this experience so you can grow and you can retain your staff? So I do believe we do it very well. We help people open up practices that are state of the art, they're boutique. They don't look like a dental office that was from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. We've seen tons of those. So if you can transform that, transform in leadership great things will happen. I know it's challenging in healthcare these days, to say the least. But for those who look at that and implement that, we just see great people just growing, growing, growing. Most people call us when they put that, what I'd say, secret sauce together, a great facility, a great team. They'll call us in 3 to 5 years and say, I've got to move, or I've got to capture the space next to me because we're growing leaps and bounds. I need to bring on more associates. So it is time proven that if you put those elements into place, growth is very significant.
So maybe last question here. Let's say I'm a doctor or healthcare professional looking to open or expand my practice. What's one piece of advice you would give them before they look for their next lease or purchase agreement?
Just, I think I've mentioned before, just don't do this on your own. Engage an expert like me or someone who is tenant only. So we don't represent landlords. We work specifically in healthcare. When you have someone who understands your needs, all the requirements, once again, will save you a lot of time, save you or help you avoid some pitfalls. I get calls at least once a month, a doctor calling me saying, hey, I'm in trouble. Like, what happened? I'm on a month to month and they're redeveloping this property. I'm getting kicked out. I've got 30 days notice. And then I always have to go back in time and say, so tell me how you became a tenant for month to month. Now there's a story in that. And I just say that, I don't tell them, but it is a bad decision to try and go on the cheap month to month and think that's very flexible terms where we want to look out for people's best interest. And a lot of that is safeguard them too.
Yeah. So if people want to learn more about Rome or yourself, what's the best way to get in touch with you guys?
So our website, you can go there. Hopefully, you can add that to the copy here. My cell phone, my email. So those are the best ways to reach out to me. We're here to serve you guys, answer any questions. We help people with lease reviews, lease renewals, searching for property. Like I said, it's just not in California, all 50 states. So we're here to serve and help.
Awesome. Thank you, Neil. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate your time.
All right, Scott. Thank you so much.
All right.